Now we shall review Scorsese's #1 masterpiece.
Those were up, and they did.
More smarts, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new epic movie review, and this epic movie review is going to be for a film from Martin Scorsese, and it's from 1991 that people have been bugging me to check out, and I finally checked it out on my way back home from Penticton, and that pretty much lasted nearly the whole car ride. The writing for this movie lasted pretty much the whole entire car ride back home. But pretty much, this one is what people widely consider to be his #1 masterpiece. That film is going to be for none other than 1990's Goodfellas. Ironically, this movie was released around the same year as The Godfather Part 3. But anyway, what's the plot of this film? Well, the plot of this is Henry Hill might be a small-time gangster and may have taken apart a robbery of Jimmy Conway and Tommy DeVito. Two other gangsters might set their sights a bit higher. Then his two partners could kill off everyone else involved in the robbery, and so they started thinking about climbing up through the hierarchy of the mob. But Henry, however, just might be badly affected by his partners' success. But will he consider stooping low enough to bring about the downfall of Jimmy and Tommy? Yeah. So how is this film made? Well, Goodfellas is based off a New York crime reporter's book called Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi. Martin Scorsese did not intend to make another mob film, but he saw a review of Pileggi's book, and then he read that book while working on the set of The Color of Money in 1986. He'd always been fascinated by the mob lifestyle, and he got drawn to Pileggi's book because he thought it was the most honest portrayal of gangsters he ever read. Then after he read the book, Scorsese knew what approach he wanted to take. And pretty much to him was to begin Goodfellas was like a gunshot and would have it get faster from there. It would be like a 2.5-hour trailer, and he thought it'd be the only way that would really sense the exploration of the lifestyle and to get a sense of why a lot of people were attracted to it. Then, according to Pileggi, Scorsese cold called the writer and told him that he had been waiting for the book his entire life, and Pileggi replied and he had been waiting for the phone call his entire life. But then, around 1988, Scorsese postponed making the film when funds in that year to make Last Temptation of Christ, and he was drawn to that documentary aspect of Pileggi's book. And the book apparently gives every sense of day-to-day life, and how they work, how they take over nightclubs, according to him. Then he saw Goodfellas that would be the third film in an unplanned trilogy of films that examine the lives of Italian Americans, and from slightly different angles. He often even describes the film as the mob home movie. It would be about money. That's what they were really in the business for. Then the real Henry Hill got paid around $400,000. So, after the movie Goodfellas was officially shot and marketed and all the problems were solved, Goodfellas was going to be released into 1990. And it was on a budget of $25 million. And at the box office, it grossed over $47 million worldwide. Goodfellas, upon also release, as you all know, received widespread acclaim upon release. And the critical consciousness on a paid website, considers it arguably the high point of Martin Scorsese's career. It got nominated for 6 Academy Awards, such as Best Picture and Best Director, and Joe Pesci won Best Supporting Actor. The film also won 5 awards at the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, such as Best Film and Best Director. And Goodfellas was even named the year's best film by various critic groups. So and also to this very day, Goodfellas is widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, especially in the gangster genre. Then around 2010 years after its release, it got deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, and got selected for preservation in the Film Registry by the United States Library of Congress. And the content and style of the film have been emulated in numerous other pieces of media to this day. Now, as for my reaction to this film, well, you all know I love Martin Scorsese as a director. Loved several of his films like The Departed, The Wolf of Wall Street, Hugo, as well, and his most recent film from last year, Killers of the Flower Moon, and this movie. With this movie, this easily has to be his #1 best movie he's ever done. And with mob films, this easily has to be the second best mafia film behind The Godfather Parts 1 and 2. It was definitely a perfect way to pass the whole entire 3-hour car ride all the way back from Penticton. And this is a film that needs to be seen to be believed. In one word, it's total perfection. Every frame, every voiceover, every song, it comes together at the exact right moment to create the perfect film experience. It makes you really understand and feel what makes the American mafia so compelling. From the eyes of a kid who was unfortunate enough to grow up in this really tough neighborhood, and apparently, according to those gangsters, were rock stars. Goodfellas, it's just one of the best films I've definitely ever witnessed. It's this perfect little showcase of breathtaking images. It's got good script writing, superb acting from all the actors, and very realistic violent scenes. And at Robert De Niro in this movie, this easily has to be Robert De Niro's best performance in film ever as Jimmy. And even though Robert De Niro's not in the film as much, he might be led to believe from the front cover. Joe Pesci, on the other hand, is in this movie about as much as Robert De Niro, slightly more, slightly less, but when he's on screen, there's definitely no doubting he's on screen, and he's very hard to miss. Just by his voice, you can already tell it's Joe Pesci. It's this short-range, loudmouth man with something wrong in his head. Someone literally makes an insult towards him, and he shoots them, and then he laughs. It could be quite a disturbing moment, and I definitely really like Joe Pesci in this film. I tend to love his characters, especially Harry from Home Alone. Home Alone and Goodfellas literally both came out in the same year. And since and an interesting fact, when Joe Pesci was filming the trap scenes, where apparently all those little muttering things he does is because he was not allowed to swear, because Joe Pesci has a pretty bit of a vulgar mouth, so every time he swore on set, he'd have a swear jar when making Home Alone, so those little mutters were him trying not to swear. Right there. That's why you hear those mutters when he falls victim to the traps in that film. And in this movie, Joe Pesci really makes you feel sick towards his character in Goodfellas. And at the same time, you also do kind of take a strange liking to him. And it shows what a good actor Joe Pesci is. And our lead actor in the film, Ray Liotta, may he rest in peace. It sucks that Ray Liotta got robbed from us last year. It really sucks. I really wish he could have been around to do one last great feature. Because I do not think Ray Liotta deserved to finish off on that unfunny comedy Cocaine Bear and be wasted in that film. He deserved a great role to be... he deserved a way better send-off than that unfunny comedy. Right here. It's definitely nice, really love... Ray Liotta in this movie is perfect as Henry Hill. I don't think there would have been a way better actor to play him at all. I don't think anyone else could have captured him perfectly. He captures a sense of innocence and at the same time a feeling of violence. And I definitely love the scene where Henry Hill walks over to this man's house with a regular expression on his face, such as, and then he says, "What do you want?" And of course, the man asks that question, and Liotta just continues walking. He takes out a gun, and he just beats the man in the skull with the butt of his gun. Then Harry goes back to his car. And his face, he has this really disturbing look on his face. An expression literally stays with the viewer long after the scene finishes. It's definitely a film that's based on the true crime and murders of Henry Hill, who was a real-life person. And a novel from Nicholas Pileggi called Wise Guys. And it got adapted into a screenplay by Pileggi and Scorsese. As you all know, from there, Goodfellas, it tells the real-life story of the mobster Henry Hill. And it's all largely true. There are some scenes that are out of sequence and others added for dramatic effect. Scenes that include this, for example, are Karen Hill flushing the cocaine down the toilet during the drug bust. And then, of course, Tommy, the character that Joe Pesci played, and the part for where he won the Oscar for, is a composite of two separate gangsters. So how do the movie start? Well, we actually get introduced to our three leads in this very opening scene. They're in a car driving late at night on a highway. In the car, you got Henry Hill, Jimmy Conway, and Tommy DeVito. Jimmy and Tommy are asleep, then Henry hears a loud thump. They try to figure out the source of the sound, and Henry suddenly realizes they have to stop and check the truck. And they open it, and they see this beaten man wrapped in several bloody tablecloths. Then enraged Tommy pretty much stabs the man several times with a kitchen knife, and Jimmy shoots him with a revolver. Then Henry slams the trunk lid shut, and they hear a voiceover from Henry says that, from as far back as I can remember, I have always wanted to be a gangster. Then we cut to Henry's life as a boy. Henry idolized the luxurious crime family gangsters in the blue-collar, predominantly Italian neighborhood in East New York, Brooklyn. Then in 1955, he quit school. He went to work for them. Then the local mob capo, such as Paul Cicera, played by Paul Borbino, who's based off the mobster Paul Varro, and Cicero's close associate Jimmy Conway, Robert De Niro's character, based off Jimmy Burke. They help cultivate Henry's criminal career. Then Henry gets teamed up with the young Tommy and the 2 sub cartons of cigarettes and given to them by Jimmy and employees of a local factory, but then a crossing guard and some cops. But then while they sell them, 2 detectives show up, they confiscate a load, and Henry gets arrested. Tommy does manage to slink away, and he tells Teddy, Paul's brother. Henry then goes to court, and he gets a slap on the wrist. And Jimmy then gives a sustainable award, though, for his silence because Henry did not say a single thing about or did not rat anybody out. And so, yeah, he did not turn Jimmy into the authorities. And the rest of the game, they immediately greet Henry with joyful acceptance. Then we cut to them when they're all grown up. We see Henry when we first meet Tommy DeVito. They're conspiring with Conway to steal some of the billions of dollars of cargo that are passing through the John F. Kennedy International Airport. They help out in his key heist. They steal over $500,000 from the Air France terminal. Then the robbery helps Henry gain more of Clark Cicero's trust. And Henry gets a sizable cut of the haul. But because Henry's half Irish, he knows he can never become a made man or a full member of the crime family, and nor can Jimmy Conway either. Because he's also Irish. Yeah, like from there, like Martin Scorsese's unflinching portrayal of life in the mafia, it's this perfectly rightfully acclaimed epic and at times funny, depressing, but most of all, even frightening at times so. And especially because it's based off a real story. The story of Ray Liotta's character rise and fall in the mafia, the way his relationships change with the various figures there as time comes and goes. And Scorsese's masterpiece is definitely, this is one of the first films to make use of the camera in new ways, from the long lingering shot to the still shot, and it's used excellently at various points in the film. You're usually complimented by this fine 50s soundtrack playing over them, because this is set around the time of the 50s. And it's some real lingering melodies from that era. It's like Goodfellas, like you get a mix of black comedy, dark drama, and it's all the more effective because they've married the 2 main characters, Henry and Karen Hill. And Karen is especially sympathetic because of her innocence. She tries to rationalize her husband's actions in her VO, and Henry explains everything he thinks in his VO. Like, and to the point of VO, like, it's necessary for Henry to speak in mind because in voiceover, like, it really works well. Then you see Henry's friends here, and they also become increasingly daring and dangerous. Conway loves to jack in trucks. Tommy has an explosive temper and a psychotic need to prove himself through violence. And he humiliates an innocent unarmed young waiter named Spider. He asks Spider to dance like the Oklahoma Kid, and then shoots him right in the foot. Then you get a few nights later, Spider stands up to an extremely intoxicated Tommy, and so Tommy suddenly draws his gun and shoots Spider in the chest and kills him instantly. Jimmy then gets angry at Tommy for shooting Spider, but Tommy is literally indifferent. Kel's asking where he can find the shovel to bury the dead man, even. Like, as we were literally cutting to them, again, like, and then we get to Henry's marriage with Karen. His marriage deteriorates, and Karen finds he has this mistress, Janice Rossi, so Karen confronts the sleeping Henry with a gun as he wakes up, and after he dangles the Denver and Florida gamble over a lion's cage at the Park Zoo in Tampa, the Henry and Jimmy then get caught by the police again, and this time they are sent to prison for 4 years. While in prison for 4 years, Henry deals drugs to keep afloat and to support his family. And after his sentence is over, he returns to them. He has this drug connection in Pittsburgh Cicero, and he warns Henry against dealing drugs. And since mob bosses do get hefty prison sentences if their men are running drugs behind their back. Like, when you don't have it on paper, it doesn't matter how many cool camera angles or transitions you could come up with. The movie does run for almost 2.5 hours raw, and surprisingly, though, it does not get boring. It manages to get and keep you interested. The script is perfect. Like the voiceovers are perfect. Like, right there. And here, like, it works wonders. It helps propel the story along with the excellent soundtrack. And the characters, like, the names alone, like, Jimmy Two-Time, like, yeah. Like, why don't we see people like Frank Cicero and Frank Vincent in more movies? The movie has, like, perfect pacing, especially with the narration of Henry Hill. Like, his voice accompanies us throughout the whole movie. It's this huge fun factor. He delivers this story well that it seems like you virtually lived through this whole movie with him. And he describes how he got into the organization, what it's like to be a wise guy. You really comprehend and you really feel those moments. And there's also the technical aspects of the movie. And the camera work is brilliant with very long tracking shots and scenes without a cut that take you as a visible spectator along through the scenes. And that's the thing with Martin Scorsese. Usually with Martin Scorsese, his films are always 2.5 hours long, but the man knows how to do good pacing more than a lot of directors nowadays. Even does, like, hell, like, Martin Scorsese does a better job at being either 2.5 hours or 3 hours long than Jimmy Cammey does today with Titanic and Avatar, which feel like they're 4 damn hours long. Like, even Avatar feels like it's 4 fucking hours long, even though it's 162 minutes. So does Avatar The Way of Piss. Like, I swear to God, I can bet you Jimmy Cammey wishes most of the films he does today were everything Martin Scorsese does. I bet he wishes he could be like Martin Scorsese. I can bet you that. It's like, instead Titanic and the Avatar movies ended up being boring as ass. Unlike all Scorsese's 3-hour stuff, it actually has good moments that are worth the 3-hour runtimes. Here, like, there's no problem being 3 hours. If you can have a good story right, then you can get away with being a 2.5 hour long or 3 hours if you have a good story that's worth making a long story about. A story that if you made 90 minutes, it would not be as good. Yeah. Scorsese makes the use of, like, the vertigo effect, like, where you zoom in while tracking backwards, the characters to the foreground remain approx, and the same size there's a shift in the background. The shot does get overused to the point now of becoming cliche, but it works effectively here. It's just one instance of Scorsese's fantastic work of the film. And he keeps the audience engaged in the film and the characters, and in a blink of an eye, a scene can literally shift from comedic to horrific. It's literally the rhythm, a staccato of that hypnotizes us to believing what the characters are really saying, but not what's really occurring right there. And there's definitely nothing, and with attractive stuff in this, there's nothing attractive here at all. Like, here the people are ugly, they're unpleasant, they do ugly and unpleasant things, the sets are mundane, they're gaudy, they're unattractive, as are the clothes. There's not one appealing aspect to any of the photoplay, but audiences are led to this Pied Piper Scorsese to the rat-a-tat-tat limitations of a heel and a turncoat. They really do care about this crumb. Right here. And also how this movie ends, the way Martin Scorsese chooses to end the film, it's a perfect little nice spot to end this film and the whole story on, the story of Henry Hill. From this ending right here, Henry here pretty much ignores Cicero's warnings, and then he decides to involve Tommy and Jimmy and his wife and new mistress in this elaborate smuggling operation. And then we get to December 1978. Jimmy Conway and his friends are planning out this record of $6 million heist from this cargo terminal at the international airport. Then soon after the heist, though, Jimmy starts to get paranoid, and some of his associates foolishly flaunt their gains in plain sight, and it draws police attention, and it literally starts to get them all killed off. And worse, after he promised to welcome Tommy into the Luch's family as his main man, the elder members of the family instead they basically killed Tommy as retaliation for Batz's death and his reckless behavior. Then, after Tommy is killed, we literally cut to this extended virtuoso sequence called Sunday, May 11th, 1980. And you have all the different paths of Henry's complicated mafia career collide. He now had to pretty much coordinate a major cocaine shipment, cook a meal for his family, place his mistress, process the cocaine he sells, cope with his clueless babysitter drug courier, and have to avoid federal authorities who what they didn't know, they had him under surveillance for several months. And to satisfy his sleazy customers, and while a nervous wreck from the lack of sleep and snorting too much of his own product. Henry and his courier are then quickly arrested by the police. He backs out of his driveway. Karen then bails her husband out of jail, destroys all the cocaine that was hidden in the house. and gets her mother to put her house up for collateral for bail money. Then Henry and his family are pretty much now left penniless. Henry carrying the breakdown, and Kara admits she destroyed the $60,000 of coke Henry had been planning to ship when he was busted. Then after Harry's drug arrest, Cicero and the rest of the mob abandon him. They're convinced he and his family are marked for death, and Harry decides to instead become an informant for the FBI. So he and his family, they pretty much enter the Federal Witness Protection Program. They disappear to anonymity to save their lives from arrest or further hell. And not before, also he does manage to finally rat out Polly and Jimmy in court. And it's now pretty much an average nobody, and he tells us, I get to live the rest of my life like a schnook. And in our movie's final shot of the film, we see Tommy fire a pistol directly into the camera. It's a tribute to the final shot of the Great Train robbery. And after that, we cut to the where they now epilogue you've seen a lot of biography films, and it explains what happened to the rest of the characters because this movie is based off a true story. We close off as the title cards of what became of Hill, Paul, and Jimmy. Here, Henry's marriage to Karen ended up ending in separation, and she got custody of their children. And Cicero Conway, they're going to basically spend the rest of their lives in prison. And so Cicero died in 1988, and Conway's title card explains that he was eligible for parole in 2004, but he died from prison and lung cancer in 1996. So, Henry was lucky enough to escape the mob life, and now he can live his life as just an average person. At least he was able to get free from the mob life before things got really worse, and he ended up in jail. On the other hand, Conway and his pal, no, they're off to jail, and they died in jail. Right there. No hope for them. And that's the end of the movie right there. It was definitely a perfect spot to end this masterpiece of a great movie on. Because Goodfellas, it's a tremendous film that's directed by Martin Scorsese. It utilizes many film techniques not used together often and creates a seemingly effortless environment, also being realistic to the audience. The theme of the film even gets surrounded in tragedy and misfortune. So yeah, Goodfellas will always be a great film in cinema to this day. So in the end, Goodfellas is always going to be a worth buying for any cinema goer of any adult age because it's truly a timeless masterpiece that will be cherished for generations to come. Anyways, guys, that's it for my epic review of Goodfellas and where I'm going to rank Goodfellas. Here's how I'm obviously going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a massive fan of gangster movies and Martin Scorsese, Goodfellas is his #1 movie that is so totally worth watching and buying for your collection because it is really a timeless gem of cinema. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Goodfellas, I'm going to give Goodfellas an obvious 10 out of 10. There we go, guys. That wraps up my epic review for Goodfellas, so what's going to be the next review? Well, our next review is going to be for an action film from 2007 that no one practically remembers. It's one that's considered to be a R-rated Bugs Bunny themed action film. Yes, guys, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, where is it? It's where I find it. Here it is. Here it is. This is the next review. I did already watch this, but I need to rewatch it again tonight because I need to regain my memory of it to make the review. But yeah, that's going to be our next review. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this epic movie review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.